AI is like a great equalizer, and it can allow anyone with like access to the internet to like use state-of-the-art technologies that weren't like really imaginable just a couple of years ago.
Hi guys, I'm Akshay. I help lead enterprise growth equity at Premji Invest, and this is our CEO series with Cris from Runway.
Hey, I'm Cris. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Runway. We've been working on Runway for almost 7 years, building the best video and world models.
Cris, thanks a lot for taking the time. Excited to be doing this podcast with you. And Premji Invest is very excited to be partnered with you all. Would love to start with just the genesis of Runway. So would love to understand sort of what problem did you see back in 2018 that convinced you that the world needed Runway, and how that original thesis has evolved as AI video generation has gone mainstream.
The vision of Runway hasn't really changed since we started the company 7 years ago, which is I would say very remarkable. And the vision back then, and more of a problem that we saw, I think we saw an opportunity, which is neural networks and deep learning was starting to work really well across different modalities. We started to see really good progress in both captioning and video understanding and computer vision. And our bet, I guess, opportunity that we saw back then was, and it still is, the opportunity that we see right now is using like the advantages and the progress of deep learning and AI as the backbone on which you basically generate and simulate anything you want. We're starting with the basic. We started with text first. I think the last couple of years have been like very good for language models, but now is the era of video. We're moving beyond just like tokens or text, and we're moving to frames, to world understanding, to physics. And so the vision of a company has been the same. It's this idea that you can take these models, if you train them well enough, if you scale them well enough, they're going to start solving all this like problems or opportunities around creating, simulating, generating content. And now we're getting to a point where it's actually working pretty well.
So Cris, we'd love to understand maybe the evolution of Runway from Gen 1 to Gen 2 to Gen 3 and now Gen 4.5, which has really just blown us away. What has changed under the hood?
That's a good question. I think there's a couple of like major changes that I think we've seen over time. There's first of all like algorithmic improvements and changes on the way we train the models. The second one is the data has been improved significantly. There's better ways of annotating. There's more data sources. We've also getting better at like kind of selecting and curating how you train the models. And I would say the third and most important perhaps is compute. We've gotten more compute. And I mean it's like Runway, of course, but also the industry at large has gotten much better at building infrastructure that's needed to scale these models. The additional aspect I would say of how we particularly have gotten to create the best model in the world right now with, as you were saying, Gen 4.5 is by, I would say, having a lot of good research taste. And taste doesn't come in the form as like of aesthetics or like styles, although definitely that involves, but I think it's mostly about what problems do you want to solve and why those problems are important and how you solve them.
Maybe you can just help the audience understand a little bit. What are some of the new features that you have in Gen 4.5 that you couldn't do before? For example, some of the realistic physics that I've seen are just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the model excels at like what we call prompt adherence, which is like you can describe a very complex prompt or description or scene with multiple elements, multiple movements of cameras, and the model will be able to basically follow the instructions of everything you want to say and you want to describe, which is kind of a big deal. A lot of videos these days in previous models have been very static. Camera movements are kind of like traditionally like fixed. This model allows you to go pretty much anywhere you want. Physics and accuracy of objects and motions are pretty like realistic, and so you can use them in hyper-realistic ways, or if you're more creative, you're going to kind of bend the rules of reality in interesting ways as well. So you have all these very interesting, I would say, applications of these models that are just coming up front because the core capabilities are becoming really good.
That's awesome. And so as the foundation model continues to get better with what you have built at Runway, there's so many directions you can go. Do you think the future is going to be where you have a world where you have general purpose video browsers, let's call it, where you have the most performant world models? Or do you think there'll be highly verticalized tools where you have models that are very good with ads versus films versus short-term content, et cetera? How do you think the world evolves?
Eventually, these models are simulation systems. And when people think about simulation, you think about, I don't know, I can simulate, I don't know, an explosion and a character speaking, and all the things that are like adjacent to film and media. But you can go definitely beyond that. I think we're not too far away from being able to simulate like interfaces and computers and like the way you use on software and the way you interact with computers, right? Or maybe imagine you want to learn something. Like I've every time I want to learn something, I probably go to YouTube these days. Imagine a world where you can simulate a personalized experience that's real time that teaches you something in the way you want to learn about it. So I think video models will become pretty much the foundations on which a lot of the simulation will happen.
Gen 4.5, as we know, is holding a top position as it relates to the ELO ranking on the text to video benchmarks today, which is a phenomenal
Correct.
place to be. Google's VO model, one thing that people are arguing is because they have access to a lot of data sets such as, YouTube, et cetera, they may have the ability to train on content that others may not be able to train on. I'm curious if you have a point of view on that. As you think about us hitting the limits on what data we can collect, do you think we have to move towards synthetic data, or how does the data collection process evolve?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of opportunities with like synthetic data and something definitely we're exploring. I wouldn't say that like video data has been like consumed in its entirety. I think there's also a point where you can actually use video models to also create more data. Definitely something we're exploring, but I would say the combination of different of those efforts will lead somewhere interesting.
You started off with a lot of, let's call it, even hobbyist and professional video developers, but have moved towards enterprises. And that's everyone from the Lionsgates of the world to other types of enterprises. Maybe you can talk a little bit about how you've seen that evolution over the last couple of years.
AI is like a great equalizer, and it can allow anyone with like access to the internet to like use state of the art technologies that weren't like really imaginable just a couple of years ago. And so what happens is that the same product can be equally used by a consumer and like someone on their personal time, and by some of the greatest and most important influential filmmakers in the world. Like we have people in like Peru, 9-year-olds making videos. We have like filmmakers in LA making blockbuster movies. We have people in Japan making like anime. Like we have people in like just like everyone uses Runway in some way, and there's no boundaries, and that's the beauty of it. Like the models can just generalize to a bunch of different tasks.
So what does Runway need to do to be clearly better and deserve to win this race? Like fast forward 3-4 years from now, how do you guys continue to stay at the top of those leaderboards, right? I feel like every few months that can keep changing.
And I think the way we manage to keep up, and I think this is true for startups, for AI companies, for any companies, you need to have a vision, and you need to be really good at and relentlessly executing that vision regardless of what happens. You need to be very good at having an idea of where you want to see in the world and pursuing that as much and as deep as you can. And look, when we started this, no one really cared about video models. No one took it seriously. We were the only and the best because there was no one else. Eventually, now everyone is like, now we're competing with the biggest and like most well-funded companies in the world. Here we're still winning. And that still winning, I wouldn't say it's because of resources. We're definitely like less resourced than they are. And I think it's because you have a consistent cultural vision and a consistent like way of getting there. And there's enough intuition and like experience within the team of how they can get there. I think that eventually compounds to winning and to being the lead here.